नमस्कार, आप देख रहे हैं वार्तिक टीवी और मैं हूं सुभाष शर्मा। वार्तिक टीवी के इस स्पेशल एंटरप्राइज स्पेशल प्रोग्राम सीकिंग द एनलाइटनमेंट में आप सबका स्वागत है। जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, भारतीय सनातनी ज्ञान परंपरा को गीता उपनिषद के जरिए, गीता उपनिषद के माध्यम से समझने समझाने का ये जो हमारा यज्ञ है, ये अनवरत रूप से आपके समक्ष हम रविवार सायंकाल 6 बजे लेकर उपस्थित होते हैं। और इस ज्ञान यज्ञ में आहुति देने के लिए हमारे साथ हमेशा की तरह आज भी हैं जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी नई दिल्ली के संस्कृत एंड इंडिक स्टडीज के सीनियर प्रोफेसर रामनाथ जी झा। ऋषिकेश से हमारे साथ होंगी गीता की निष्णात अध्यापिका, अध्येता, जिज्ञासु और जापानीज भाषा में संस्कृत का हमारा जो वांग्मय है इसको पढ़ाने वाली आचार्य राधा जी हमारे साथ हैं, ऋषिकेश से जुड़ रही हैं। और साथ ही टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के सीनियर एडिटर रहे हुए और एमिनेंट कॉलमनिस्ट मुंबई से हमें ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं श्रीमान विठल जी नाडकर्णी। भारतीय मूल के मशहूर वैज्ञानिक, एमिनेंट साइंटिस्ट और इन दिनों अमेरिका रहने वाले प्रोफेसर बलराम सिंह जी हमें यूएसए से ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं। बेंगलुरु से हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे मॉडर्न मैनेजमेंट के प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर श्रीराम जी दर्भा। और भारतीय मूल के ही इन दिनों अमेरिका रहने वाले प्रख्यात प्राध्यापक, एमिनेंट प्रोफेसर अनिल जी भाटे यूएसए से हमें ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं। और साथ ही सीनियर आईएएस, भारतीय प्रशासनिक सेवा के वरिष्ठ अधिकारी रहे श्रीमान जेके दादू जी हमें नई दिल्ली से ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं। इस तरह से हम हमारे एमिनेंट पैनलिस्ट के पास चलें, इससे पहले आज के एपिसोड का एक सारांश हम आपके सामने रख रहे हैं। आज जैसा कि आप जानते हैं अध्याय 8 चल रहा है इस वक्त, और आज जो विवेचित होने वाले श्लोक हैं वो है श्लोक संख्या 11 से 14, श्लोकास 11 to 14। और तो चलते हैं दरबार साहब के पास में। स्वागत है आपका, नमस्कार।
नमस्कार, हरिओम।
हरिओम।
Today is a very profound subject, actually talking about Om, and so nicely started with Jha Sahab, and he has given the reference to the source from which this particular shlokas are taken. I mean, from all the Upanishads, actually, starting from Katha, Prashna, Mandukya, Chandogya, all four there is a mention about and Vistar Roop se, and followed very nicely by Radhaji with an anecdote which I actually wanted to share today, and because my focus has been on the mundane life, and then how difficult is it. So it is not like so even in the Sanskrit bhasha mein bhi, of course, so Jha Sahab jante hain more than me, that there are two always meanings. One is the Vachyardha, the other is the Lakshyardha. In anything what we take, of course we go a little deep into it in a Vedantic this thing, and then Vyakaran mein jayenge, so there are things like Jahadal Lakshana, Ajahadal Lakshana, and Jahad Ajahadal Lakshana, like that. And there was a lot of explanation about this Lakshyardha and then Vachyardha. So in the first two slokas, Bhagavan Lord has explained beautifully what kind of people it is possible to know the real form of me, and then how do they get to know. And he has given a practical lesson here. Not only the concept, he explained the concept as well as the practical solution and the way forward. So what kind of people and how do they reach or understand the Parabrahman, that is Om Ityeka Aksharam Brahma. It is also said in even in the Sanskrit Varnamala and then alphabetical is that there is no alphabet which is not worthy of a mantra. No aksharam, parama mantram or something like that is there. So that is every akshara is an indestructible form. Actually, the name itself is akshara, that which is non-perishable, is an akshara, is an alphabet. That is the significance given in the Deva Bhasha, Devanagari and Sanskrit. And hence Vachya and Lakshyardha both have to be understood. Like Radhaji herself said, just by sitting in a posture, in a so-called, anglicized and a modern way of meditation or a yoga, all forms of yoga. There are dance yoga, there is robotic yoga, there is disco yoga. Like that, there are several yogas, sexual yogas, and all are also there. Unfortunately, in the world. So everybody saying that is it so possible just by it is like I always share my favorite thing that E is equal to MC square. So just by chanting, will somebody attain or understand? Nope. That's what he seems to be saying that. So one is the Vachartha Om, and then it is beautifully demonstrated by her. And second is, and hence each and every person, all Tom, Dick and Harry, all sundry, just pick it up from the book and then can they practice and then just sit in some kind of a kriya or art of living or something like that. You may say, or inner or outer engineering. You may give a nice label and then practice and then attain and then say that okay, I have reached samadhi and then I come back and all. So that is the temptation, and then that is the projection, one limitation one may get involved in it. So he has explained what is the sadhana, and then the abhyasa, and then the yoga, and then the seriousness of concentrating through dharana, because in the Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga there are several steps: yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, and then dharana, and then samadhi. So he is talking about yoga dharana. Dharana is like keeping it stable, and then she is keeping it here in the Ajna Chakra. As I shared in our system of my daily practice of Devi Upasana, in Srividya Sampradaya, the same thing, the Nada and then the Bindu Upasanas are also significant. Like Nathkani Sahib has said, and then the other two people have also just mentioned. So, with special significance to my commitment and then my faith and practice, I would like to say that the same is said about the from Mooladhara Swadhisthana, how it reaches to the Vishuddhi and then goes to the Ajna, which is the Rudra, center, and then maybe Sahasrara with a little more, a lot more practice, which is Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and then Vaikhari. So this is the Nada, the Swarupa, which travels through the six chakras, and then it goes to the Ajna, and thereafter there is a possibility of taking the Kundalini through Sushumna to the Sahasrara. It could happen in one Janma, it could happen in many Janmas. But a lot of mind control, that's why the Chitta Shuddhi is required. So like Nathkani Sahib said, Guru is important, Upadesha, Upasana, Chitta Shuddhi, and Buddhi, and then Manas, and then control. So he is talking about, he is not saying that, he said Navadvarani Samyamya. He never said that close all the Navadvaras that you have. So once you close it and all, if it is not done properly, and not from a proper guru and all, you may just, Hamsa ud jayega and then Admi mar jayega. So we have to be very carefully practice this yoga sadhana and then the yoga dharana. Otherwise, if you just say that, the mind control is extremely important. So the mind, without that, in four other places, Lord has said that prayana kale cha and then api. Antakale cha, antakale api. These api and then cha are extremely important things according to me. Otherwise, antakale, if he left it like that, okay, like we discussed last episode. Last minute we just say that, and then do we attain that kind of a liberation? No. That's why cha and then api are extremely important. Like Ravaji said, I was tempted to say that. Similar Lalaji, he was there and then he was on the bed in a hospital, and then they said that, he will only live for a few seconds unless we give one imported injection, which is brought from America, and then all four sons are eagerly waiting, and this old man is there, he's a miser. So at the last minute, so they brought somehow, because they were all eagerly waiting and looking at him, and then he just said, ka, ka, ka. Only three things he's saying, whether he's coughing or he's saying ka, ye ka kya matlab hai? Maybe, he's talking about a treasure trove, which he has kept somewhere else, and then वो लोग घबरा गए हैं कि इसका डिकोडिंग कैसे करना चाहिए, ये का क्या मतलब है. एंड देन दे सेड, अच्छा कितना भी खर्चा होता है तो परवाह नहीं है, वो इंजेक्शन दे दीजिए, अगर 30 सेकंड नहीं है तो 10 सेकंड जिंदा रहे तो भी परवाह नहीं है, नो प्रॉब्लम, लेट्स गेट इट. And somehow they bring it, and then they'll give that injection to him, and then he gets up, and then in seconds he still says ka. ये का मतलब क्या है काका जी, ये क्या बोल रहे हैं आप. So he says, Kavva kate kaddu, ya kavva kaddu kate. So that is why he is saying, because there is a crow, he has seen through the window and then he is there and with प्यार से बहुत गार्डनिंग करके कद्दू ने पाला पोसा है इन्होंने और कौवा जाके उसको काट रही है. So if that is the kind of the involvement or the attachment a miser has got in a life to the material pursuits, so what kind of a buddhi he will have even at antakale or prayanakale, and hence it is nitya yukta, and then satatam was a good word. That's why nirantara or satata, and it's a beautifully both of them have explained. The other thing extremely important is how difficult it is to control mind is Shankaracharya in Vivek Chudamani has beautifully given, because he says Shabdadibhi panchabhireva pancha panchatvam sogunena baddhaha Kuranga matanga patanga means Brunganara panchabhiranchita kim. That's a beautiful shloka. It says that because each one of them, the Kuranga matanga patanga meena, because that is the deer and then the elephant and the bee, bumblebee. Matanga patanga, it is also the fly, the bumblebee, and meena, the fish. And these are the five things which are surrendered, which are yielded by the sensory objects. Each one is falling for and dying for the weakness of one of the sensory things, like Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. And each one is dying because of one faculty. And imagine what is the plight of a human being who is endowed and bestowed with all the five sensory, organs, and then the temptations which are causing. So that difficult is it to control the mind. That kind of a mind control is only possible through yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, and dhyana, samadhi, asana, and all that. That is very clearly given. So, and another important thing, he is saying that Mama Anusmaran, but what we are doing is Mama Anusmaran. That's what we are doing. Many of the time we are only involved in Mama, that is about the self. So, from Mama to Mom, I think we need to move. Otherwise, there is always a temptation of the miserly merchant, which is an example which we talked about. So that's how it works. And then the second one, probably if the time is there, we can take up.
वॉइस का देखेंगे क्लियर हो गई क्या जी?
Yeah, just to add, I am happy that he has given an explanation. Of course, जैसे झा साहब ने बोला, ये बहुत गंभीर बात होता है, and it may take one full episode. But just to touch it, though he has given one example, normally in वेदांत परिभाषा में 2-3 एग्जाम्पल दिए जाते हैं, गंगायाम घोषा and शोनो धावती, and the third one is सोयम देवदत्तः. These are the 3 examples typically given. Saha ayam devadatta. He is the same fellow. He is the same Subhash Sharma. Is he the same Subhash Sharma whom I met in Jaipur the other day? ऐसा बोलते हैं, हाँ यही है वो. So that's what he says. Same thing about the Tattvamasi also. You are that. The same fellow you are only. You are the same Atma which is the Paramatma. So that वो जानने के लिए लक्ष्यार्थ और वाच्यार्थ की जरूरत होती है. बट नॉर्मल परिभाषा में, नॉर्मल कोलोक्वियल अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए जैसे ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन किया गया है ओम का, स्पेशली अबाउट ये उपासना पद्धति में पीपल विल टेक वाक्यार्थ इज अबाउट अपरा सिद्धि एंड देन लक्ष्यार्थ इज फॉर परा सिद्धि, ऐसा बोला जाता है. गुरु लोग वैसे भी शुरू में बताते हैं. तो पूरा ज्ञान होने के लिए वाच्यार्थ और लक्ष्यार्थ का एंड वो जानना, जानकारी होना और सही सम्यक ज्ञान की जरूरत होती है. नॉट ओनली इनफ, इवन इफ यू प्राप्त करने के बाद भी कुछ लोग बोलते हैं कि अरे ये तो महान आदमी है, परमहंसा है, वो समाधि में जाते हैं, आते हैं वापस, एंड देन जीवन व्यापार करते रहते हैं. वन स्वामी जी वॉज देयर इन समाधि एंड देन शिष्य इज ए कैंटेगरस फेलो, ही गोज एंड देन जस्ट कॉल्स हिम स्वामी जी वंस. And he doesn't respond. He is there in the samadhi, because he's forgotten the whole thing. And then again he calls to Swamiji. And then afterwards he's again third time, fourth time, fifth time, just Swamiji, Swamiji, Swamiji पढ़ा रहा है. And after that he gets disturbed and then said, यार कितने बार बोलोगे ये स्वामी जी? नहीं, ये बोलो क्या है? कुछ नहीं स्वामी जी, एक्चुअली स्वामी जी ऐसा है कि स्वामी जी बोलते क्यों नहीं? Already disturbed and then he gets extremely angry, at the 10th time. So that means even if one fellow who is supposed to be a Paramahamsa and a Guruji and a Rishi Muni, even after coming out of the samadhi immediately also, he is falling for the temptation of krodha, and then he gets angry with a simple provocation. That's why in Nityasthita, Prane Samsthapya, Yoga Dharana, and then staying there, that steadfastness is extremely important. That comes with Abhyasa Yoga and then Dharana. And hence we need to have Sadguru, Sadupadesha, Sadsadhana, and then, it's a long-term process. That's how it should be understood. And don't get carried away by the immediate siddhis or immediate benefits just to project and then behave like holier than thou. Thank
Right.
you.